Hi, everyone. I'm Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot and very happy to be here today. So I have Marisa Acocella
Okay.
with
Hi,
me.
everyone.
Oh,
I'm Carrie
no.
Cassidy from
Okay.
Project Camelot,
How did
and
that
very
happen?
happy to be here today. So I have,
Okay, sorry about that. There's always some tricks that I forget. So welcome, Marissa. And Marissa is going to interview me about Stargates and whatnot. And take it away, Marissa. This is your show.
Okay, so Kerry, you are kind of an expert on Stargates, and I've been following your reporting and what you've been saying about them, and it's interesting because I follow your Telegram channel. Your Telegram channel is my go-to, and I noticed that you came out in pretty much the same place I came out, which is that we are in the middle of Stargate wars. So, what exactly what do you mean by Stargate wars? Why do you feel that we're in a Stargate war? Well, what exactly is going on in your estimation?
Okay, I'm going to
And also,
show.
by the way, I'm really happy to be here. You're my favorite interview.
Oh, thank you. Well, we had a lot of fun the other time with Laura as well. So, anyway, just maybe we should introduce you to the audience as well. I don't know how much they know about you or how many interviews you do. Do you interviews on your own very often, or mostly with Laura?
Well, I do them with Laura, but I'm starting to do them on my own. So aiming for right now, but I'm a cartoonist. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. I cartoon for the New Yorker, and I've written four graphic novels. I'm a graphic novelist. Um, right now, I'm really obsessed with what we're talking about. I am completely obsessed with Stargates. Um, Most of the books I've written are memoirs and or have to do with.
Go ahead. I just kicked
Okay.
in some of the recording stuff.
Okay. So, my work is pretty much women focused, and also I focus on the supernatural and fantasy, but I'm really intrigued by Stargates and the work that you've been doing. And you kind of fit into what I'm obsessed with because you're a woman who's very interested in the truth and what's really going on in the world. So it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I think you're one of the most intriguing, knowledgeable women in the world. So
That's a pretty big order there. I hope I can live up to that. Uh, okay, very
you
cool.
will.
So I just want to show this image because I like to focus people's minds. A lot of people don't know I lead tours in Egypt every year whenever possible when we don't have a war going on. And see if that even worked. Yeah, there should be an image on the
Beautiful.
show, or maybe it's not showed up yet. Is it showing?
I see it, and it's beautiful. Now,
Okay.
are
So
those like,
okay,
what
I
is
know
that?
you're an
What am I
artist, so
looking
you're
at?
probably going to trip off on this, but the thing is that this is from inside one of the temples in Egypt, and I'm using somebody else's image. Actually have this image, but I don't think they'll have an issue with me using their image of the same thing. But I just want to show everyone that Stargates in Egypt are carved into the temples everywhere. So going through a Stargate, and that is how you come and go from Earth, is very important. It's key. And for the progenitors of humanity, they all came here through Stargates. And also with all the ETs. So portals, stargates, major stargates, and then there's portals, and even portals can be created. Humans can create portals. Some people would say humans themselves are portals. So when you're bringing something in from the outside, you're bringing something in from other dimensions. This is what we're talking about. And Egypt is very fascinating, as you know, because it depicts all the spiritual things in imagery. And, they have writing too, but we don't necessarily read that writing, right? Although some of the guides can read the writing. But it's been translated and all of that. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that they're on a boat. So this signifies they're on a journey, okay, for them. This is going through a Stargate, all right? And see how they put stars in the sky, like Stargate, right?
I do see that. Now, is that the one who was married to Horace's father? Now, what's his name escapes me, but you know who I mean.
Well,
With the
Enki or
blue.
Enlil. No, they don't. They don't actually use those names, at least in the
Okay.
Egyptian depictions. They use Osiris.
That's Osiris, though. He's signified by the blue hat. Yes?
Well, yes, but there are many gods, and this is Horus is usually this bird or crow or whatever you want to call him, and falcon, I think they call him.
Right.
Anyway, but my point is that not so much to get hung up on that as to understanding that we are dealing with how humans are dealing with other races, other beings. And so what happens is the powers that be have always wanted to lie to us about the fact that we're not alone, as you know. And this becomes especially important now when actually Trump has to come forward. And I don't think he's just deciding to come forward. I think that this is an agenda and that he has to comply. So this is a sort of a milestone that we have to cross as humanity to begin to understand as a group, as a whole, that we are not alone, that we've never been alone, as Bob Dean would say, that we come from the stars and will return to the stars.
Right.
And that ingress, egress, or whatever you say, is how we come and go. And just so that you know, like back in the days of, I call them the usual suspects, but it's Tom DeLonge and Hal Puthoff and a lot of these people that are they're the bridge group between us and the secret space program, whose names you don't know. Okay.
Okay, are you talking about like the Stanford Institute, that kind of thing?
SRI, yes.
Yes. Okay.
But, that's where Hal Puthoff sort of set up shop at a certain point, and that's where Ingo Swann went, and where they sort of scouted out remote viewing from a certain brand of remote viewing. And that Ingo, if you read the books and you read Ingo's history, which is wonderful, so have I. And, then that actually there was kind of a war behind the scenes over the technique of remote viewing when it came to the fore. But nonetheless, psychics and remote viewers are actually, in the end, doing the same thing. Some people would not like me saying that, but it's how you travel, what your techniques aren't going to really matter. It's the end result, okay, and what you see. And military like things to be regimented. So that's where SRI got involved in creating these steps that you go through. But nowadays, a lot of remote viewers, like Courtney Brown's group, uses certain protocols, whereas the future forecasting group that you might also know about, these are famous remote viewers who are also using a bit different protocols. And there are many, many, many people using different protocols. So every individual can use their own protocols. And so when you're looking at remote viewing or a psychic ability and looking through whatever, you can see and sense portals, and you can also theoretically you can go through them without your body in that situation. So you can actually use a portal or Stargate to go and remote view something outside of this dimension. And you can also travel. Obviously, space travel is totally dependent on this, but the To the Stars Academy guys what they became absolutely fascinated with is portals and stargates when they were doing their work. And wormholes is
Who is
wrapped into
this?
that. To the
So who are
Stars
you, who did you just
Academy.
mention?
So
Okay,
you're not
okay,
familiar,
I'm
I
not
guess.
familiar with them.
Tom DeLonge. Oh, well, this is going back
Tom
a few
DeLonge.
years. They've
Okay.
actually gone, gone quiet as a group, but for a while they were kind of front and center in trying to kind of connect with humanity, tell them secrets that were found in the secret space program, but not reveal everything and keep it limited. So they were gatekeepers in a way, I think. And some of the players I know fairly well, and I've known of, and some of them not so much. But Hal Puthoff is kind of like the main guy behind the scenes. He's a physicist, a very
Right.
famous physicist. So when you have that kind of, I don't, people with these, Mellon is another one of the guys. I forget if his first name's John Mellon or what. But anyway, I'm just trying to talk about what's happening in this world where we're beginning to tell people the truth, okay, about what's really going on Earth, and who they are is part of that. And it's part of understanding who you are, to understand, how we got here, and also why we have wars on Earth, which is, there's a lot of naivete. So what's happening here, because I have witnesses, people that I've interviewed, but whistleblowers, military witnesses, okay, so that I've talked to for 20 years. And all of them talk about how we actually travel through space. So right now you're being lied to. And for example, Elon Musk is a limited hangout there to distract you, to make you actually think we use rockets and rocket fuel and things like that to travel interstellar, and even to go to the moon and Mars. We would never use that old-fashioned technology to go to the moon and Mars, and he knows that damn well.
I know, like those tin cans. And doesn't he have a mansion on Mars? Did I hear that correctly? Didn't he have a mansion
It's
next to Henry
well, we
Kissinger or
have a
something like
base.
that?
We have bases on Mars. Okay. So whether he does or he doesn't, our military has bases on Mars, and we have bases on the moon, although that area has been highly contested. But initially, when we first went there, we had help. We didn't go in a tin can. NASA didn't go in a tin can. So they've been lying. They have been lying to us so long. It's just incredible. And there's a little movie that came out recently about the Challenger disaster that had been out, I guess, a few years ago, and they re-released it. But it shows you that all of those astronauts never died, that they're all perfectly alive, that they've tracked them back to their jobs that they're holding now, where they live. And it's absolutely obvious. And of course, they're still denying it when you try to interview those people. But I'm sure they were part of it. They were part of this whole hoax on humanity. So what we're in is a disclosure about the secret space program that has been running. In essence, it's underground, it's off planet, but it's also running and influencing surface Earth, us, and our politics up here. So this is where Trump gets extremely misunderstood, because he's responding to his orders. And I can't say exactly who's giving his orders, okay? I know that he's being manipulated by the secret space program, for one thing, to do certain things. And it's not like he has a choice. This is my view. I think he basically has to go along. It's to his advantage to go along, okay? Assuming it's to the benefit of humanity as well. Because I think the White Hats do have a mission that involves exposing the dark side of the secret space program. Now, this is where you have to go back to William Tompkins.
Okay.
And he was talking about that when we had we had a space program actually probably back to the 1930s. But when NASA became official, and when, we got involved in the war with the Nazis and all of that, paperclip, and we brought over the scientists and NASA. They all came to NASA and a few other countries, which is like, the UK, Russia, Argentina, and so on. In other words, this is a program that has been going on for many years. 80 years? I mean, we're talking a long time to lie. And Werner von Braun was arguably the head of NASA during a good portion of those years. I don't know how many. I don't think he's still head of NASA, for what it's worth.
Wait, what do you mean he's still, is he still alive? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, he's whatever they did, I have a whole time travel. I did a conference on time travel, and I have these witnesses about time travel. And I had one in particular, and I tell the story on stage. It's on my, videos, which is that I had a person approach me who believed he was the son of Werner von Braun. He was working in like a Staples store as a cover during the day, and then at night they go to work for the secret space program. And he was a relatively young man at the time, but he had a whole story about how he met this guy and realized that he was actually meeting his father, but it was it's either he was brought over from the dark side, what we call parallel Earth, which there have been, Fringe and there's another counterpart. Those are TV series telling you the truth about what's known as parallel Earth. So there's a parallel Earth in which each of us exist, but we are the darker side, the dark side. I know.
So there's a dark Earth that's a parallel Earth?
Yeah, there's a parallel Earth. And so, and a lot of this material is in the Oceana Dean Voyager books, but it's also out there in many other places. As I say, I don't know that Hollywood read her books, but I do know that, that they made 2 series based on this. Okay. And Hollywood's always disclosing what's really going on. So back to this whole idea here is that I'm trying to bring people around to understanding what is happening with Trump, what the White Hats are really doing, and the things that you think are the plan. Some of those are just directives that they have been given that Trump has to fulfill in order to get the job, which I don't know if he's already gotten the job, but he, in theory, has been vying for the job to run the North American continent, the Five Eyes, and Greenland and Iceland and various, places, to take control of those places and to be in charge of it, arguably. Now, the actual status of everything, I don't know, but I do know what the plan, their secret space plan is, and their operations are about. So the thing that you think you're watching news, let's say news on, and people like, I'm very concerned because people like, that I like Tucker very much. I like, what's her name?
Candace Owens.
Yeah, Candace, but they don't know the real secret. If they do know them, they're faking it. They're kind of misleading the public to stay in the same lane as the public so that they don't stir up the kind of trouble that I stir up by telling the real truth.
Are you talking about the secret space program, Real Truth? Is that
Everything.
what you mean?
Yeah, this is our relations with ETs goes way back. It goes back even to places like Tibet and India, where they, were visited by ET groups. The blue people in India were very well known, and they were depicted on all the temples and everything way back in the day, the Vimanas and so on and so forth. So we're just coming back around to where Atlantis was before it fell. So you can just look at Atlantis as the the basic drawing board on which everything we do is based. And we're emerging into that world very quickly. and we've just about come up to it. We have the same dark magicians in the background. They're still trying to destabilize the earth and these pillars of energy using these crystal pylons, as they're called. So it's a huge, big story. I don't want to get people too distracted, but I want people to understand that if you don't understand what I'm talking about and you have no idea, then everything you hear in the news is a lie. And
Well,
they have been
right.
lying to us steadily in every country, in every official. Even Juan to this day is still covering up. He's releasing a little bit of comms here and there, but mostly it's not the truth. Okay. And even that, see, my point of view is there are people who think you can't handle the truth. That's why they
Yeah, I
don't tell
hate
you.
that. I hate that. They
Yeah,
can't handle us when
but
we
that's a
find out what the truth
lie.
really
That's
is.
a lie. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
know. That is a
if
lie.
you understand who is another human being, okay, so I'm a human being, we are a hybrid race. There are people who want to believe we're a pure race. That's bullshit. We are hybridized, and we were hybridized, by the way, by the reptilians and the Anunnaki back in the day. So I'm talking before what people think of modern man was even walking around on Earth. These ET races were coming here through the Stargates and invading us and trying to take control and rule us. And that the Bible, the God of the Bible, is Anu. And you can keep that little saying in your head. You may not like it or believe it, but I'm telling you that this is the truth. The Anunnaki they probably were responsible for even the Council of Nicaea. You got to understand how ETs have been working with from behind the scenes, okay? And they've been working with people that know they exist, obviously. In fact, theoretically, I am advised by these people, and not necessarily Anunnaki, although probably, I don't know, but I can say that I am getting information. And lots of us I'm not that unique. I mean, I am getting very accurate information. The reason I say that is because it keeps proving to be true, even when I get it and I think, okay, that's outlandish. I don't know about that. And then it'll happen right in front of me. So this is the thing, that we are all in the same situation. There's been a lie. It's like, this, have you ever seen the TV show Stepford Wives? Did you ever see?
No, but I've
Oh,
read the
okay.
books.
Well, you should
I
watch
never
it. It's
saw
a
it.
movie. Okay, but did you say,
I
okay,
think I saw the
did you
original movie, but
see
not the
Don't
show.
Worry, Darling? Did you see? That's a more recent version of the same thing. Did you see Don't Worry,
But
Darling? Oh, no. Okay, well,
no.
these are movies you have to see, so they should be in the front of your mind so you know when people are referring, but
Okay.
whatever.
I
You
read
saw
the
the
book
Truman
Stepford
Show,
Wives.
right? You must have seen
Yeah.
that. The Truman Show? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So what I'm trying to
Yes.
say here is
Yeah.
that movies have depicted this situation where you are being lied to. The actual truth is very different than what you have been told. Okay. And they've tried to tell you in some movies, not all, many movies, never tell you that. But if you
Right.
start to catch a glimpse and realize that you have been lied to so many times in so many ways, the trouble with right now, in my opinion, is that the white hats are coming along to change the program on Earth to get rid of the dark side. This is actually their mission. Okay. So there's no reason to go against them because their mission is to free you, to free humanity, but they have some strange ways of doing it. And some of what they're doing is keeping you dumb up until they think you are ready, which I object to because, again, we have that problem
Yeah.
with people that get into situations where they think they can tell us when we are ready. And that is insane. I mean, it's not for them to decide. They are not God the creator. Okay. So this is the problem that we have. And even AI is telling you, okay, it's a good time to release this information. It's kind of like I think about, John JFK Jr., who is our VP under COG, which is continuity of government, for the last all the Biden years, because Biden was killed. He was actually executed as a pedophile by the White
In
House.
2019, right? In 2019.
Well, no, I think he actually was killed right around either in 2020, the end of 2020, December 2020, or 2021, January 2021, before he was inaugurated. I don't know exactly when. Okay, I'm
So
thinking
who
it's a
is
little later than you
okay?
are, but it
So
doesn't
it wasn't
matter.
it, right?
For all intents and
Okay.
purposes, he's dead. So he was dead then. So we had what's called continuity of government, which is Trump's responsibility to make sure that happens, regardless of the fact that we had a 2020 election, because the 2020 election was tantamount to an invasion of China, the CCP, in cohorts with cahoots, yes, with basically MI6, and this is all Juan has said. All this, I mean, he actually delineated all the culprits. Venezuela supplied the machines. You wonder why we went into Venezuela. They took down our entire government. They were part of a group. Canada was involved.
With the election.
I mean, it's just insane. So when people are listening to the news and they're hearing all these things about this is so bad and Trump's so bad, and they have no idea what they're talking about. And
I know, because there's a million cover stories for the truth.
And so what I'm talking about here, I'm not telling you the exact details, but I am telling you that everything you're being told is a misdirect or lie. And even MAGA people don't get that. Okay, there's some brilliant MAGA people who follow the plan, by the letter, but they don't understand that the plan does not include what I'm talking about. All right, it never got that far.
Right, because it's all about the secret space program. It's all about the Stargates. It's all
the plan
all
omits
about the fact that
they omit. So it's kind of like, if you want to
the fact that we're part of it.
If you want to say you have a triangle, then are basically cut off to all of humanity, including the white hat story, only goes up to a certain level. And there's levels above that nobody is talking about and nobody knows about, except some people in the alternative sector have broken through and understand. I can tell you that, let's say, yogis in India probably know about it, but they are not talking. There are some leaders, even arguably, what's his name? The one that was head of, Libya, Gaddafi. So
I'm sure
it's very possible that Gaddafi had gotten inside information. We're talking about, and Xi, let's say, okay, Xi and Putin know exactly what I'm talking about. They're read in, all right, because of their associations, whoever told them the real truth, whoever introduced them to that, and so on and so forth. Trump was introduced to the real truth long before they think he was, okay? So I was listening to somebody on MAGA who was doing a show, and they think that Trump was just read in, at a certain trajectory, which was, way later than he actually was read in. And arguably, so was JFK Jr., and that's why JFK Jr. never died. He was rescued by the White Hats, because the White Hats were in operation back then. They were actually guarding him. They would be guilty of his death if they didn't save him, but they did.
Okay.
And Carolyn and her sister. And JFK Jr. is
so is he one? Do you think? Where is?
Okay, all right. I don't know that you don't know this stuff, but okay, I've done lots of shows explaining that.
Right.
JFK Jr. And I have, I'll bring up the picture in my website, because I get so tired that people, it's like they can't follow the narrative. It's like even you, and you're very astute, okay, and hip to stuff, but you're still hesitant. You still don't seem to really, it's not at the front of your mind, right? I don't know whether you vacillate
Well,
between.
JFK Jr., I mean, I know that I've heard you say many times that you think he's 107, and I really hope I hope so because I mean I thought JFK Jr. was brilliant, and
Okay, I'm just looking for
I mean
this thing.
and
I
I
just
wish he would
realized that.
reveal himself.
Okay, so let's just go here. Now, can you see have I shared my page yet? Okay, hold on.
No.
I'm just, I mean, I go through this a lot, but the reason is because if you don't understand who's running your world
Mhm.
right now, hello,
Mhm.
and one of them is JFK Jr., and you're hearing him talk as Juan O'Savin, and that this plan, the White Hat plan, is actually worldwide. So these
Okay.
two guys, okay, and here's Juan O'Savin on the left in disguise, and here's his double, a guy who is like, I call him his bodyguard, but is Wayne Willett.
Mhm.
You see, they don't even look alike. I mean, and yet people think they're the same person. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like unbelievable, this lack of knowledge out there. Okay. You
They
can
don't look
see they
alike.
have totally different head shapes,
No.
just they're even behind the mask. I mean, this is a fat stomach Mac. He's skinny, so he wears two pairs of pants to try to
Mhm.
be that fat. He's got a big fake beard. I mean, the whole thing is just laughable. But
Mhm.
this is the story. Okay. I know it sounds outrageous. It sounds
Mhm.
like I'm making this up. I can tell you that most of all my colleagues have agreed with me. There are people in constant touch with JFK Jr. They're in touch with him as 107. He wears his disguise like everywhere. He's about to do a 100 people um, secret, supposedly private meeting in Vegas. I don't know how private it is since it's been announced, but nonetheless, he's inviting his 100 chosen. He's not inviting me because I tell the truth too much, and they don't want my version of truth out there yet. Not ever. It's not like ever they want it, but they
Why
don't.
though?
This
Why?
is what I'm trying to address for people.
But why not, Kerry?
That's
Okay.
just
All
it.
right. Go ahead.
Again, because they think they can decide when you're ready to know something and when you're not. I don't agree with that paternalistic view of humanity that they still, even they're raised on that. So they actually have the audacity to think they know when people should know. Now, you they're not the only source of truth, so you can get it, all the truth I'm talking about out there if you are paying attention. You're sort of a psychic intuitive, and you have developed those qualities, and you've done your searching, and you're on a journey, and then you will have broken through to the matrix and started to
Mhm.
understand what's really going on here. So when you get to the war with Iran, and you
Mhm.
don't know that for all intents and purposes, the battle is over control of the Stargates in Iran. And why would that be? It was the same with Saddam in Iraq. He didn't have nuclear weapons, or if he did, who cares? He had chemical weapons, just as bad or worse. But the thing is that he was opening the Stargate that was in the museum underground, and he was letting in certain Anunnaki, maybe the negative side. So like
Right.
everything, there's probably positive and negative on both sides of every race of beings. Okay. It's just as above, so below. So
Right.
I sort of assume that there are going to be both positive and negative, but when we talk about a negative race, we're really talking about a race who either want to eat us, kill us, or take over our world and get rid of us in some form or fashion. In other words, they're our enemy to our existence. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's where the reptilians and the Draco come in. And that is their mission. Okay. Their mission is to take over, to eat us, to use us as sexual toys, to you name it, and to
Or
also
do they rule this?
genetically re-engineer us. Sorry.
Do they rule this planet? Do they rule this planet at this
Okay,
point?
so there are groups of ETs that are
Mhm.
vying for control of our planet. and the good guys are also part of that mix. Okay. So,
Okay.
and so this is the story. Okay. It's complex. It's not cut and dry, but we are in a certain sense, we're um, a free lunch right now for aliens. You know why? Because we are not unified.
Why?
We are not unified. Okay. What does that mean? It
That's
means
true.
that aliens can pit one of us against the other of us. And when we're so distracted fighting each other, they can come in and do whatever they want. For example,
The
during war,
divide and conquer master plan,
yes.
right?
And
Okay.
so during
Right.
war, they come in through CERN, which built a Stargate wormhole to the Draco galaxy. And I've got this on many authorities. Okay. And
I believe you
what they do
100%.
is they bring large ships in through certain larger stargates like that, like CERN, and they go to war-torn areas such as Ukraine, Iran now, and Iraq certainly, and any place that has, Africa is full of wars. And they scoop up the women and children primarily, but also, I'm sure, some men, and they take them off planet. They sell them, they sell human beings as slaves, and they also, you know, get whatever they get in return. Like, I don't know if it's money or how these people barter, whatever they barter, but according to Captain Mark Richards, he's grew up in the secret space program. His father, okay, so his father was called the Dutchman. He was a very well-respected Air Force officer. And Mark and his father and his son, Mark, invaded Dulce, if you want to know kind of like their claim to fame, with a group of troops and basically rescued a bunch of humans in cages under Dulce that had been going on for, decades. And this is what's happening. I mean, Epstein had a maglev train from his ranch in New Mexico to Dulce and Los
See,
Alamos.
that I didn't hear. That I never heard. I mean, I was like everything else I know because I've seen your videos and I've done my research, but I never heard that.
Okay, well, wrap your mind around it. This is what's going on, okay? And I say these things and people mostly ignore me. Some people take it seriously. But I know these things that I know because I spent 20 years talking to whistleblowers, military whistleblowers, okay? Not just anybody walking down the street. So when you do that, the way I've done it, and I some of them I kept constant contact with behind the scenes. And some of them never came forward on a video. That's the other thing. So there's, I might call them sources, but they're whistleblowers. So this is a story, why I know what other people don't know. So I couldn't avoid knowing this stuff. So now, even though they're keeping a lot of whistleblowers away from me, it doesn't matter anymore because now I have a direct link up, I guess you might say, with the incoming information and races, and I have help from certain sides and all that kind of thing. So, I'm not trying to blow my horn so much as just explain where I'm coming from and why
No,
I
it's
know
important to
what I
talk
know.
about all this. Yeah, and you're not blowing your horn. You're giving
And
a
it's
lot
so,
of knowledge.
it's
So
in a certain way, being me, it's hard for me to sit around and wait and watch, for example, Juan lie to people because first of all, I know that he doesn't want to lie to people. He, has a good heart. He's JFK Jr. for fuck's sake. But this is where we're at. And this is the same with Trump. And they made a pact and they made a plan and they have a military backing. And right now they're running the United States. Hello. So they're not just nobody. And yet I talk to people that deny they exist. That's how insane it is. I mean, it's just amazing.
So I have some questions, Kerry, though, because here's the thing. So can we like backtrack a little bit on the
Yeah,
Stargates?
yeah.
And so you were talking and like the first image you showed us with the boats, and I think they're called boats of heaven, like that's what they call them, and going through the Stargates. So those progenitors came in through the Stargates, right? Now there's so I would think that they're still going in and out, are they not?
Yeah.
Like now, I would think
Yeah.
so. They're
You know,
still
the Great
okay.
Pyramid
So
is a major Stargate. Okay, let me say the
mhm,
Great Pyramid is a major
mhm,
Stargate, and it links with
right,
Abaddon, which is a major Stargate in Iran. It's not an accident. This is major,
right,
okay? Now, and they link with other Stargates as well.
right.
So there are 12, and I think maybe I'm
So
mistaken, but I showed the diagram. Now, showing the
Stargate.
diagram is slightly
You had, yeah.
controversial. It's on my Telegram channel, so you can go there and look at it. It's copyrighted by Ashiana Dean and her, Voyager
Hmm.
book. However, the content of the diagram, the stargates are the same 12 stargates known throughout the world with people who know where the stargates are. So it's
Right.
it's accurate. And she doesn't own the Stargaze. Obviously, she just has a diagram of it that's quite good. So,
Hmm.
I'm not going to necessarily show it here, but I can refer you to I can show you from my Telegram, and I can cut, to there. So, in answer to your question,
Hmm.
this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a part of reality that is completely like it's like it would be like if you cut yourself off at the neck, the whole
Hmm.
head of what's really going on is not participating in everyday life. Nobody knows in everyday life. Tucker doesn't know this. Okay, if he does, he's a good actor. you know
But what the thing is, though, Kerry, okay, and another thing is I watched every single episode of Stargate SG-1, right? And in that show, they would talk about how that the country, like the rest of the country, couldn't know about the Stargate, and all the countries were fighting over the Stargate. And there was one episode where a reporter was going to write about the Stargate, but he got killed right in front of O'Neill, like when he was in Washington, dressed up as a general. So, or when, or whatever he was at that point. But the thing is, it's like when we're cut off from the Stargate, is this not true or not? That when we're cut off with the Stargate, we're cut off from the rest, from the galactic society. So we're just
Well,
basically marooned
okay,
on this
no, because
planet.
these things are being used regardless of whether we like it or
No?
not. We don't have any control over them.
Okay.
They exist, they're there. You could even walk right up to them. You might not know it if you were in a Stargate. That's the other thing. Have you been to Sedona? Have you gone to all the what do they call them? The sites in Sedona? I don't know if you.
I haven't been to Sedona in a long time, but
Okay, well, they have
but
portals. They're portals.
so
They're portals and they go to other dimensions
mhm.
and you can find them. And tourists go there. I'm forgetting what they call. They call it by a name, that is a little bit, simplistic. But anyway, Sedona is a perfect example. You can just walk up to the Stargate. You'll never feel it if your frequency is not tuned to that. Okay, I can go to the crystal. I think it's the Crystal Mountain one portal in Sedona, and I can feel it pulling me into it. So obviously, my frequency somehow matches that frequency. Um, Other stargates on Earth are like that. There's also portals which are not stargates. Okay, so stargates are major portals. They're known by both sides. They probably have wormholes that connect at both ends, that kind of thing. A portal is just an opening into these other dimensions. I mean, the reality is that people barely believe there's other dimensions. I mean, we're trying to start a dialogue with people that are even
Right.
scientists that are so completely dumbed down that it's shocking. It's just shocking.
Because
And
because they don't want you to know. That's why.
yeah, they don't, and because they do, journalists and people that investigate, they kill you for doing this, for knowing this. Okay.
Like they
So they kill
killed
people
our
like me.
journalist on Stargate. I think. Yeah. Right. How did you manage to stay alive so long? That's a really good
I
question.
have great
I
protection.
mean,
I do.
who's
I'm
protecting
not
it?
kidding. I mean, that's a fact.
I
Okay.
believe
I,
you.
I
I
have
mean,
had attempts. I've had close calls. I talked
okay.
about some of those times, and I can do that anytime. But the
Mhm.
point being is that the interesting thing is that it's taken 20 years of my work for things to catch up so that now people are watching my work and understanding what the hell is going on there because there were exceptional people that were my following, that subscribed to me all these 20 years and stuff like that. But, so there were people that were on the same page, you could say, even 20 years ago.
Mhm.
But I can tell you one thing that when I first emerged with myself and my ex-partner back in the day, Bill Ryan, everyone loved him and
Mhm.
hated me. They hated me. It was like they would get nothing but hate mail towards me
Why is that?
because,
Because you're a woman asking questions. How dare you? That why? Is that why?
yeah, in part because I'm also the way I am anyway, which is I'm
You're
very
very, yeah,
straight. I'm not a straight shooter.
sure.
Whereas Bill was very, kiss ass English, speak softly, all that kind of thing. Some people just only want their truth in a package, and it's kind of like,
So let me
look,
ask you something,
I
right?
mean, I was just talking to somebody today. Look, I'm more like Jesus, okay? He went into the temple and knocked over the tables of the fucking, money changers, okay? I'm like that, okay? I'm not gonna wrap it up and kiss you and pat you on the head and, at the same time slightly mislead you. That's not my style, okay?
Right.
And I'm a
No,
warrior
no.
at heart. I'm a female warrior. I even have information about the way I am because I'm known in galactic communities as to who I am. So this is my mission, and it was then and it is now. But, people who don't want to know the real truth, who really can't handle the truth yet, they're,
Right. They thought God was a
blocking it.
spell.
They're trying to deceive themselves. A lot of them prefer religion, for example, that package the truth in tons of lies, and they prefer that. They really do.
Right. But Kerry, I have to, okay, here's the thing. I want to get to like the crux of the whole matter, which is what exactly are they trying to cover up so badly? Is it because the CIA was trafficking children? Is it because they use humanity as food? And if they find out
Yeah,
that's
of
the
course. They
reason why
would,
they don't want to
you don't
disclose,
understand.
that's
There's a
why.
man, General McCaslin, who started
Who
disclosing, I guess,
disappeared.
information
Right.
about Roswell that they don't want out there.
Mhm.
And I think I know what it is. So I said it, at a conference yesterday, and I have told people, but you don't have to believe me, but the bottom line is that and there's a woman scientist who disappeared, I think, a couple of years before he did that he was working with. So now he's disappeared.
Right.
According to the chief of police, who is a Colorado policeman, who's member of MAGA, who's totally into sort of the psychic realm and doing healings and various things. He's also gotten a certain amount of contacts in the police forces by virtue of that he was the chief of police for Colorado for a time, most of his life, I
Okay.
think. And I've interviewed him a couple of times, and I've had many
Is this chief?
conversations with him. And he
Is this
he
the
you know
chief?
he feeds me information as well, and I feed him information
Mhm.
for that matter. And he found out that the CIA, he said, a rogue group of the CIA has kidnapped him, McCaslin, the general, and
Oh.
is interrogating him right now because
Hmm.
there's something about Roswell that he knows that they don't want out there. And we received back in the day, this is back 10 or 15 years ago, way back in the day, uh, death threats over some information about Roswell that we were given by some secret contacts. And I
Body parts?
and
Was it human
we
body parts?
literally got a phone call threatening us and the people we were working with. We had gone to the site, the location to have these discussions, and they were all of us were given death threats. And we had to just stop, pack our
Kerry,
bags, and leave because they weren't fucking around. And they were probably associated with the
Kerry,
CIA.
I'm
So,
sure they were, but
so you're
yeah.
asking me why don't they don't look, I'm not in their
That's a good
minds, but
question.
I can tell you
Mhm,
that one of the major reasons they don't want
mhm,
disclosure, the real disclosure that I'm talking about, is
mhm,
they want to remain in control of humanity. And basically, in a certain sense, I'm not even sure they completely want to replace the Anunnaki. In other words, the Anunnaki and the control over humanity kind of go hand in hand. And if we no longer consider them our rulers, you
mhm.
understand,
Right.
we know that they don't know, okay? And that they don't know enough to be our
Mhm,
rulers and that we shouldn't be bowing down to them or kissing their fucking crowns or whatever the fuck,
mhm.
then they lose. They think they lose, okay? So they're demented enough to think they need to be in control. And they
Well, they
don't
are
trust regular humanity. In fact,
Mhm.
90% of these people will tell you that most of humanity can't handle the truth and they're not smart enough to handle the truth and all this kind of thing. I mean, there's a divide, if you can say,
Mhm.
between what we call the ruling class and the Anunnaki and the Illuminati and all the races that want to control us, eat us, use us as slaves and continue to do so, and the people.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
some of my colleagues actually serve the dark side.
some of your colleagues serve the dark side.
Yeah,
Well, I could see that because there's like only so much disclosure that they put out there.
right.
And because they don't want us to know the full truth. So, yeah, I mean, I totally get that. Whereas
Okay.
you are the one who is basically laying it all out and saying everything. So, I mean, to me, it's like
Okay,
they,
let me explain one thing about the
okay.
Stargate so that you also are totally understanding what is a Stargate and why does it matter.
Yes, okay, that's a great question.
Like Sodom was doing, and
Hmm.
what Iran is probably doing,
Hmm.
okay, is getting in contact with off-world races and inviting them in. Why is that a
Okay.
problem here on planet Earth?
Well,
When you
why is it a
invite
problem?
in an ET race that has better technology, that has
Hmm.
dark aims over humanity, that can give you weapons and all this kind of stuff if you kiss their ass, right? It changes the whole balance of power on Earth, all right? And that's what's happening. That
Hmm.
is actually happening. And I don't know, I've said this many times, but the Middle East has the biggest, strongest stargates of the entire world. It's not an accident that it has the
Because of
pyramid.
Samaria, because of
Okay.
the Anunnaki? Right,
No,
because
because
the
that's
Anunnaki were there
that's
because of
because
the
no,
Sumerians?
because it's how the earth is just constructed, basically going
Okay,
back in
all
time.
right.
Before the Anunnaki were not the, they're only like, oh, we're only going back, I think 2000, it might be more than 2000 years, okay, before Christ type of thing.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So the earth was in this state. The pyramids were built by ETs, not by Arabs with ladders and whatever the fuck. I mean,
I never believe
you
that.
know,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah,
Surely
that's
you
like
know that
completely
much,
crazy.
you
Of
know?
course, but I mean, like, I can't imagine anybody believing that humans built the pyramids. But the thing is,
But
who?
see, they look,
Okay.
they go to all ends, you know. You can get
Hmm.
arrested. I mean, my last trip, I probably shouldn't say this, but my last trip to Egypt, I got
Hmm.
stopped by the thought police and
Hmm.
tracked and even had to run away from the military at one point because I
Hmm.
went barefoot in a temple. The place is run by a dictator, a Sisi, however you say his name,
Hmm.
and always has been. He's just the next Mubarak, I think it was before was the other one. I might have, I forget all these names.
Okay.
The Middle East, Iran is run by a dictator. You want to know why you don't know what's really happening in Iran? Because people are not allowed to tell you. When I go to Egypt, I was told, and I've been leading tours in Egypt for over 10 years, maybe more like 15. because I was doing it in 2012. So how many years is that? And this is 2026. So that's, 12 or 15 or whatever. I did
All
it
right,
before
whatever,
that as
14,
well.
14.
And I
Okay.
was told, I talked to the people, I love the Egyptian people and I feel very comfortable with them. In fact, I have some kind of strange rapport, probably a past life connection. And they even let me in behind the scenes in these places that they don't let Americans, let alone tourists,
Mhm.
into. And they just sit around and talk to me. And I said, I don't speak your language. He said, but you understand us. I just have this, knowledge that I brought in with me.
Right.
And I know, I travel the Middle East. I'm very comfortable there. I'm very comfortable there and in Africa and in these places. Okay. India. I mean, these are all my prior lives, obviously. But, if you understand what's going on here, and the secrets are actually everywhere. When you start looking, you're going to be shocked the more you see it. Now that we talk about Stargates, then you start. I'm showing you the technology. Here, let me bring this other one up here,
Okay.
this other image, because this shows you. It's funny how it's like in plain sight, but people don't. The Egyptian guides all lie to you. They don't tell you any of the truth. Really, pretty much. I mean,
But
I have a different guide and he's smart and he knows stuff. I drive him crazy because, these two guys are opening a Stargate. This is Stargate. This is Stargate
so that's
technology.
Boris,
See the
right?
door?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but see the
Okay.
door? Hello?
Right. I do
No,
see it
I'm
right
just
there.
trying to say that you
Mhm.
see all over the temples is Stargate technology. It's
Wow.
inscribed all over the temples of Egypt.
Wow. So
And
it's
if
like
you
hidden in
really
plain sight.
understand it, you could probably tell, like a physicist probably say, oh, what they're showing you here is blah, blah, blah.
Right. So basically everything's hidden in plain sight, but then they
A
gaslight
lot
you
of
and
it.
tell you it
Yeah.
doesn't exist. And and they say they're going to disclose, but everything's been disclosed. I mean, if you really want to find out what's really going on in the world, you could look at your videos and your whistleblowers because you've disclosed a lot of it. You
Yes, they
have.
have.
You've disclosed why that disclosure really didn't even happen. And even when they do disclosure, is it really going to be disclosed anyway? Because basically everything you said here is more than we've ever heard out there when they've disclosed, when the government's been disclosing, because they're not going to say that like the government's working with the
Okay, and like there are whistleblowers out there, even now, going to places like the UAP, like
hmm
Rush, and he
hmm
has, in a way, he was a little like me. He was the center that a bunch of whistleblowers came to, and then he tried to speak for them, intercede for them with the powers that be, the government
hmm
and they tried to disinfo him. They tried to discredit him.
hmm
Um, it's just it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle to get the truth to humanity and for humanity to find the truth. And it's true that all these movies that you see when somebody finds out the truth, someone wants to kill them. Okay.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you that one of the reasons Hillary wanted to kill John is because he had figured out and he had hired an investigative journalist to out George Bush, among other people, in the plot to kill Kennedy, his father.
hmm
So he was going to release that information through George Magazine that had already gotten standing and all of that. So he
hmm
became a threat at that point, you see. And
Yes,
then he wanted to
because
run for office on top of it.
right.
And even today, I don't know why he doesn't come forward, but he still seems to think that he's under threat or that his family is under threat.
hmm I
So
wish
he
he
goes
would come
around in
forward.
this ridiculous outfit. This is the name of the game. I mean, it sounds simple when maybe I talk about it, but these are very life death decisions that people have to make to
hmm
tell the truth and live a lie or
hmm
not. And I'm not willing to live a lie. So I will even out religions religions are the opiate of the masses. It's an old saying. And the bottom line is most of religion is full of lies, absolutely unequivocally full of lies. And what its main message for religion is trying to get you to place your power outside yourself in the hands of even Jesus or God, when in reality it's within you. Even though Jesus tried to tell you that, you didn't get it.
Gospel of Thomas, that's what he said. The kingdom of heaven is within you.
Yeah, so
He
you
wasn't,
don't
he
have
wasn't,
to
he didn't want
go
you to worship him. He
on
wanted
your
you to mind
knees.
yourself.
None of this bullshit, get in the church and all this nonsense, praying night and day. You know, if God of the universes, multiverses, you think they really need to win? They already won. Hello, they rule over you. They're completely in control of everything. And you think they need to win? You're a fool. You know, what happens is Satan is not on equal footing with Jesus. I hate to tell you this, but hello, it matters that you don't understand that. It matters that you think, you know, metaphorically speaking, half the sky is ruled by Satan and half the sky is ruled by Jesus, and they're at war with each other, you know, and God is the mediator or something, whatever they think. You know, what I'm telling you is that the creator is on top of all of it and in control of all of it. The creator generates the light and dark. The light and dark is most manifest when you have a physical reality, which is 3D like this, which is in our case going into 4D. We're becoming less physical, less material. And the Illuminati, who like to, they want to live forever in the material universe. They're what you call materialists. So they want to have their physical body. They want to, you know, gorge out in good food and all what kind of thing. Sex, endless sex, violence. I mean, they want to do their worst so that they can serve Satan, right? And then be reincarnated again, because if you're too good, you don't get reincarnated. That's the last thing they want to hear. But it's a fact. They know it. See, the thing about the Illuminati is they know the secrets, but they can't do them. They can't really live them. So they can only live it from the dark side, from the lower realms. That's what they do. So anyway, it's just, these are philosophical decisions. I realize that, but you got to understand there's an underlying message in all of these things telling you not to get truth from within, but to go to somebody outside yourself, to some authority, to a doctor, to a lawyer, to a this one, to a that one. It's all nonsense. We don't need rulers. Rulers are full of shit. Most of them are lower than we are in terms of intelligence, perception, psychic abilities, you name it. Most of them have no fucking clue whatsoever what they're doing. And once you know this, and don't start bowing down to ET when they come through the fucking door. Because
that is really, I mean, I really think that is a huge problem. And I wonder if that's why the Vatican wants to take control of disclosure. I mean, why do they have a telescope named Lucifer? And I don't know where it is, in Arizona. Why are they so ingrained in disclosure? And I think it also has to do with
they want to control you.
They want to control you. And I think
they're run by the reptilians who want to eat you and kill your children and eat them. Okay. Right. That's who runs the Catholic part, you know, the Roman Catholics, in fact, and, you know, the Vatican. That's who runs them. Okay. That's who they worship. And there's been times when they actually tell you that.
There's all that imagery in the Vatican.
Right.
And we've heard what goes on in the bowels of the Vatican. And they probably are the ones who took over the Council of Nicaea and stripped out all the books that
among others, among Anunnaki
exactly
as well.
So, exactly. So who's basically running the planet? And do we know who's
there? Okay, there are again levels. There are even levels again above the levels I'm talking about. But I can tell you, you know, in a certain sense that the families in Basel, Switzerland, I have it in good authority, are controlling the financial system. They still
Okay, that's
are. I don't
this.
believe
Yeah,
that the White Hats have gotten control over the financial system.
I don't
I really
believe it
don't.
either. I don't.
And I believe that the ETs, including the Anunnaki, are controlling the families in Basel, Switzerland. That's
I
the
agree with you.
pyramid. Okay. That's what we're
Okay.
looking at. So I
Okay.
don't care. You can play all the games you want,
Mhm.
but we are humans are having trouble getting control of our own financial system. Because again, that's how those people or those beings want to rule over us. Once they lose the reins of that, then they think they can't control
Mhm.
us. I mean, you have to look at the pyramid and understand the different levels, but the bottom line is that, you know, in
Mhm.
order for us to control our destiny, I was just talking to this group today or yesterday, I mean, and I said to them, you don't want peace. Why would you want peace? You're a prisoner. You're
Mhm.
a prisoner in a prison planet. You're a slave. There's no reason to be peaceful.
No,
On
I
the
agree.
contrary, you should be rebelling every
Mhm.
moment of every day against the system that's trying to control you and your destiny. Okay? You have a right to rebel. In fact,
Mhm.
it's your duty to rebel.
It is. It's totally our duty to
I
rebel because
mean,
now
to
the digital
question
currency is all
everything. And
coming.
I don't
Yeah,
care what authority they think
I agree with
there
you.
is. Okay?
I agree. And I'm pretty much against all authority,
Right.
all of
So
it.
the end of the day, this is what it's all about. It is a spiritual battle. It's a spiritual battle over also Earth sovereignty. And this is
Mhm.
also where the battle with the Stargates comes in, because you
Mhm.
got to understand, we have been asleep at the wheel, allowing ETs to honeycomb our planet, to put bases on all the oceans, underground, everywhere. They're all over the fucking planet now.
Mhm.
And some are run by the Greys, some are run by the Nordics, some are run by this one, Ashtar Command, you name them. They're all running or trying to run the Earth above, the surface Earth, and to control us. But they all have bases here. Some are working hand in glove with the military, and some of the military are at war with each other. The
Mhm.
Army is at war with the Air Force, and the Air Force is at war with the Navy. And there are factions within these different
Isn't
divisions.
the military working with the ET? So it's so
They're
like
all, that's what I'm
they're all
saying.
working. Yeah, they're all
They're
working with
at
them. Yeah.
war because they're at war with the ETs that they work with. And this
Mhm.
is going to continue
No
even
kidding.
as disclosure becomes more obvious. But
Mhm.
we're going to know more and more about who's working with who, okay?
Mhm.
So that the lines of sort of demarcation between the good and the evil sides are going to become more obvious. That's what disclosure will give us.
Mhm.
It's if you don't know, you see, I say parents can't protect their children because they don't understand that they and their children are prey. If you knew you were prey, I mean, this is like the biggest secret. If they didn't, since they don't tell you that,
Mhm.
you're basically leaving your door open, leaving your child open to being kidnapped any day of the week. They're out there, out playing with their friends or whatever they're doing.
Mhm.
This is what we're talking about. We're talking about an unguarded populace who is their members are dying in droves and they just ignore it. It's like Nazi Germany when the trains rolled by with the
Mhm.
victims of genocide. And
Mhm.
the people, as they say in the churches, just kept singing along by themselves, just listening over there and
Mhm.
singing in their religious,
See, this
zombie
is like the whole heart
zombieism.
of it right here. Everything. This is it. This is it right here. So first of all, the fact that you're calling out what is evil, what is running the planet is weakening it. But how do we fight and win? How do we
Well,
fight and
that's
win
where
as
you have to
warriors?
know who your friends are, and you have to understand. This is why I go to the trouble to try to
Mhm.
help people to realize that we actually do have, after all this time, a real group that they're not perfect, but they are
Mhm.
working to free humanity. That is their plan. They've talked about it. They've published it. They're working day and night to do what they think is right. Yes, they're not telling you, they're being secretive because, you know, they have an enemy. Okay. The enemy knows that they have a big obstacle in their way right now. It's the White Hats. It's the White Hat military under Trump
Mhm.
and backed by, you know, various ET races, some races from inner Earth as well. They're using AI. The other side's using AI. The other side is backed by negative ET races. You understand? China is working with a group of spider beings among also the reptilians. China is, I don't care what you think of Xi. I don't know what game he's playing, but I can tell you that China is not ruled by the good guys at the moment. They aren't.
I never thought they were. Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
well, who
I mean,
would?
my
But there are
spider.
people that think that. No, you know, because they call them the, what do they call them? The elders, so the Chinese elders, okay, like Ben Fulford. Ben Fulford is run by the triad. He has to tell you what they tell him to tell you, okay? I did an interview with him many years ago in person. He freely admitted he had been basically kidnapped by the triad, you know, threatened with torture if he didn't do what they said. So he
Who's
has
a
done
triad?
that. What?
Okay, who's a triad? Is that China?
The triad. Yes. No, it's actually both. It's Japanese and the Chinese.
Okay, so I didn't
My
know
understanding.
exactly who they were. Okay.
Um, and they don't. Okay. And I actually, you know, wrote about this on my Telegram and talked about it. Oh, I tried to talk about it yesterday, but I didn't get very far. So
I
let me
missed that one.
say,
Very sorry. Okay.
Benjamin Fulford just did a video. It's outrageous. He basically has a threat to our Treasury Secretary, Bessent, and basically says the triad has offered a bond of gold and that Bessent better fucking accept it or he's going to Gitmo, like they're in control of the world, which they are not. And the White Hats would not obey that. Okay. The White Hats, I'm sorry, triad, but the White Hats actually don't need your money. They have tons of money. They don't even talk about how much money they have. Okay. They certainly have the gold from the underneath the Vatican for one things. But I was told by a very top, I mean, super at the tip top level of the financial system. I was told, and this was a couple of years ago, that they had an offer then to give money to Trump and the team. And again, they rejected it. Okay, supposedly. I don't know if they accepted it later or not. But when I was involved, they were rejecting it, saying they had plenty of money, they don't need it. And they probably do, if you think about it, because a lot of the money, a lot of the sort of control or whatever they do have is coming from off-world, and they have to have made some kind of agreement with a portion of the secret space program that it is also running off-planet. All our relations with off-planet beings. You understand? And all our space travel, all our interstellar travel, all the mining we're doing on other planets for gold, diamonds, you can name it, right? I mean, see, if you don't understand, we are in the space age, you just don't have it. You don't know it and you don't have it because your government lies to you on a regular basis to keep you stupid.
So, right. So is this the inter ICC that's controlling everything? What is it called? You know, that corporation that's
I
whatever
don't
it
know what
is.
you're trying to
It's
say,
above
but
us, basically.
I don't know. Are you talking about, you know, the Galactic
Okay, what I'm
Federation?
trying to say
What are
is
you trying to talk about?
I they're called the ICC. I don't remember exactly
Oh,
what.
yeah, I don't remember what that stands for. I don't know. You know, there's probably lots of levels
But
of these people in the secret space
BlackRock is
program.
part of it too,
But it is,
off-world.
you know, it's the bucket name is SSP.
Mhm.
That's the bucket
Okay.
name. And you got to start
hmm
humanity somewhere. Okay,
hmm
so it's best that you go there rather than going to the Council in Foreign Relations, okay, that's involved with all of that. or
I would
MJ-12. It's
never.
also still operational under a completely different name. Just trying to wrap your mind, even for the white hats to have gotten this far, shows me that they have made deals with the SSP. That's just obvious because the SSP is running our off-planet relations, our off-planet space program, our interstellar, building colonies on Saturn, moons of Saturn, Jupiter, and outside our solar system, making deals
Right.
with A2 races that we don't even know exist on a regular daily basis. Okay, always, every day. They are having meetings, actually, right
And yet
here
we
in
think they're
Antarctica.
just
Okay, that's
yeah.
what Antarctica does. A lot of what their meetings take place in Antarctica where they can't be surveilled by all the different factions on Earth. But they also meet in castles in Exeter, places like Exeter, England, in Peru, in certain places. I mean, and God knows where else. That much I know my whistleblowers have told me. So
Right.
in other words, your future, humanity, let me tell you again, your future is being determined even outside of Trump. It's being determined by the secret space program and the ET races that are vying for control of you and our resources and you as a resource. Okay. So hello. I mean, you want to stay dumb, it's your
Well,
choice.
that's why I think this is so important to keep talking about this because the more you talk about it, the more it's exposed. I
Yeah,
mean,
sure. I mean, I've been talking about it for 20 years, so I'm
I
happy to
know,
continue.
I
You
know,
know, I mean, it's nice to talk to you because you seem to, really get it. But, I talked to Nino and he really doesn't want what I say to be true. He's still
well,
steeped in a religion that prevents him from thinking freely, basically. In my opinion, it does,
mhm,
and
mhm.
he'll probably hate me, but we get in fights all the time, so it doesn't matter.
Who? You and Nina?
Yeah.
You and Nina have fights all the time?
Yeah.
I know you guys do. But I mean, like, look, I've talked to other people who are in the secret space program, like Daryl James and Penny Bradley and James Rink. I never talked to him, but I saw his video. I saw the interview you did with him, and he did a lot of work too. And you know, I believe, I know in my heart of hearts, everything you're saying is true. And it's like, you know what, if you try to talk to people who are not exposed to this, who are, these are the same people who don't believe what we're saying here, the same people who think chemtrails are fake, who fell for the pandemic. It's like you could have a list of people and, things that people fell
Yeah.
for.
Yeah,
If you
they
fell for
are.
this, column A, then you're not going to believe this, and it's like, you just want humanity to wake up and stop fighting each other and fight the real enemy, the people who have been imprisoning us and enslaving us and killing us and eating us and
Well, a big
stealing our
step, in
children.
my
What?
opinion,
What?
but a big step is just sharing the truth and knowing
Exactly,
the
which is why I
truth.
wanted to talk to you.
That's the biggest thing you can do right
Mhm.
now is in the stage we're in on planet Earth. There's
Right.
not much else you can do other than share the truth. That's a revolutionary act in a time of, deceit
A, s- a
to
time of
share.
lies. And
That's what
yeah.
deceit is. But yes,
Yeah, I know it is.
I'm just
It is.
saying,
It's you're
that's a famous quote. I just was
I
sort of
know it is.
quoting
I
it.
know.
But
I know.
anyway, so, this is, I mean, it's good to have a nice discussion with you about this type of thing. But see, the seat, the trouble that I'm having a lot of times now is that I know they're good guys. I know that Trump and his team are good guys. And I know, look, there are doubles of Trump. The double, and Ben Fulford talks about this all the time. He's the I guess primary double they're talking about is 5'8". He seems to be living in Mar-a-Lago right now or something, and
Mhm.
he's apparently also controlled by the dark side. And he's also supposedly a pedo going way back. Now, whether he is or not, or that was another double many years ago, you know what I mean? Because a lot of these stories go back, I don't know, 20 years or more, right? When
Mhm.
supposedly Trump was accused of doing this and that. It wasn't
Mhm.
the Trump, okay? Trump, the 6'3" guy, you can easily tell who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, okay? So they
Mhm.
probably did that on purpose. They made a clone or they made a double who plays the part very well. He's a good actor, but you can tell in a glance. I mean, most of us can tell who know we know the difference. Even the top, I can tell you, one of the top intelligence officers of the CIA is convinced that Trump is a pedo because he believes the fake guy is the real guy. Now, maybe he's acting, maybe he's lying, and he's just, using this scenario. But the bottom line is, I don't care who you talk to. I don't care if it's, God, there's so many, I have so many people out there that I consider, loosely speaking, colleagues who just don't know the truth will swear to you that, Trump is guilty of this, that, and the other. But think about it. The White Hats are not going to go against pedos. That's their main platform. And have a pedo
Mhm.
at the lead. That would be insane. They're not that stupid. And JFK Jr., give him a little credit for being the son of Kennedy. The White Hat's whole
Mhm.
inspiration is Kennedy. Okay.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
telling you, you don't have to
I
believe me. I've
know.
been
I know.
working with them since 2010. These people are completely dedicated.
No, I know that the Q, I mean, JFK was the one who started it. Yeah.
It's all about that.
So, and
It's about the
Eisenhower in
fact
the
that we
White House.
finally had a president who would tell the truth to the
Mhm.
people, and they killed him, okay,
Mhm.
or ostensibly killed him
Mhm.
because there's rumors that the White Hats were operational then, and they prevented his death, and they
Mhm.
secreted him away to Scorpio Island of Onassis for the rest of his life. That
Mhm.
yes, he was crippled for life or whatever it was, and that he lived out his years and that he might have only died recently. Some people recently think he's still alive. I don't know.
I
With
mean,
all
I've
the
seen
technology out there, you can
pictures
die a
too.
million times and be
Yeah. Yeah.
resuscitated. God knows what. There are med beds in the world. They're just not accessible to you. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of
Right.
fake med beds out there.
I mean, there's a lot of fake everything out there.
Exactly.
Let's be honest. It's like trying to find what's real and the truth and staying true to that and fighting the good fight and fighting for humanity and trying to get humanity to get along so we could all together fight the real enemy. And anyway, no, but I
Well,
mean,
this sort of package, it's a package deal, this matrix, okay? It was there, it is there for, it's kind of like if you want to get a little more esoteric, why are we here,
Mhm.
for example, especially if we see through the matrix? Well, you
Yeah.
could say we're old souls. We play this game. It's like a maze, it's a game is a maze, and you go through it and you keep missing the cheese or whatever kind of thing. And the thing is that eventually you break through. Eventually you get higher consciousness and eventually you
Mhm.
can escape the game altogether. Or you can come back like what I consider myself to be. People may not appreciate this acknowledgement, but
Right.
that I'm a bodhisattva. What's a bodhisattva? In the
Hmm.
Eastern philosophy, it's somebody who reached enlightenment in the past, but
Hmm.
decided to come back down the mountain and work, as they call, work in the garden. It's all in the literature.
Hmm.
So, in other words, I know that's mind blowing, but the bottom line is,
Hmm.
well, I'm saying it's a real thing. It's
No.
something that's written into the scriptures of the yogis and the various disciplines, mostly Eastern disciplines. Okay, that concept. So I'm not the only one, for God's sake. you know. Um, and those of you who know that you did that, well, maybe you know about yourself. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're just still kind of lost. And because people's memories get wiped when they come in through the gates, the you know the old-fashioned way, you might say.
Right.
You know, I
Thank
mean,
God.
let's just get real here. We're trying to break through the lies and the matrix and the deception. And some people are still so lost. They don't see themselves as warriors. Look, I don't give a shit. You have to be a warrior. You
You
have
have to
to
be a warrior. I
in
agree.
order to equip yourself for the battles ahead. Because
Mhm.
this is not the last war that we're going to be fighting. And we're fighting on multiple fronts, wars on multiple, on the health, the war for our health, the war for, freedom for speech, for kids, to have their own choice of life, and so on and so forth. I mean, there are so many,
Food, water,
there's so many fields in which we're actually
medical,
at battle, you know, for just getting the truth out,
digital prison, digital
right.
currency.
And
Right.
so
Wow. Yeah.
this is the story. And you can either take the pill or the blue pill and go where you go. It's a fact.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I mean, I think we've gone on long enough. I think we covered quite a bit of ground. Do you
I know I
agree?
could always talk to you even more, but I won't take any more of your time. But I, have like
Well, I
50.
think if you keep these videos somewhat, contained, then we can always come back and do some more. And,
I would love that. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
I'm
this was
happy to
really
do that.
great. What's that?
Well, you've been great, so thank you. And I'm happy to, continue this discussion. I mean, every single day something happens there's worth discussing. And this latest thing that Juan's working on, I think he's up to something. Apparently, these bonds, what you call like bonds, school bonds, construction bonds, blah, 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 there's some kind of scandal associated with it now. I'm thinking it might have to do with the fact that we weren't a republic and they were created by a non-republic, and now we're a republic, and that changes everything because they're not associated with our government, therefore they might be worthless. I don't know. Okay, I don't know what they're up to. But I am suggesting here, because why is he having a meeting? He just said this on a video. He's having a meeting first with his 100 chosen, and then he wants to do one with 500 people open to the public.
Mhm.
you know,
Right.
and God knows what kind of whitewashing he'll do when he talks to the public. I don't know. If I'm there, he's not going to do much because I'm going to, make sure it gets outed. But the bottom line is this is what we're dealing with. We need to keep each other honest as well, you know,
I
and there
agree.
are a lot of people who come in, gain a certain amount of notoriety and power and whatever, and then they mislead the public as well because they're misled as themselves. I mean, there's some great people out there that have analyzed MAGA and the whole plan to death, but they never once say one word about Stargates, what the real war is about. They have,
Mhm.
in fact, they probably have no idea. All right. But if any of them do, then you see you've got a person who's deceiving you, even while they're telling you the truth, because they don't think you can handle the truth. Is that a compliment?
That, like, I cannot stand that because
It is
I
so
think
insane.
it's so
It's
insane.
just like, it's so condescending. Do you
Yeah,
understand how condescending? You're
I
saying
totally,
that person, you can handle the truth, but that person next to you is less than you and can't handle the truth. How dare you play God?
I agree. And you know what? I really think they say you can't handle the truth, which was a spell on the whole world. It was. They say that because they don't want you to know the truth, because once we
Right,
do find the truth, what they won't be able to handle is us.
right. Yeah, because
So
an awakened public. This is what John F.
this is
Kennedy
what
was
they're
so
afraid
famous
of.
for. He wanted an educated, aware, informed public. That's what he
Mhm.
wanted. He didn't want people that sat around on their asses waiting for somebody to dispense the truth to them, you know?
Bread and circuses. Yeah. It's like we need to open our eyes, open our minds, open our ears, and hear the truth and talk to each other and tell each other what's really going on and reveal the truth and act on it instead of like waiting for somebody to save us. Like that's not going to happen. This is our
But we
time.
have some good fighters on our side at the moment. They
Mhm,
should have more respect for us, actually. That's
mhm.
my opinion.
I agree.
Juan was brought up in a paternalistic society. They
Hmm.
still tend to want to be, militaries are paternalistic by nature. They
Hmm.
still think they can know the truth and you can't, even
Right.
when they want to keep the secret from the enemy. But you
Mhm.
know, what I question at this time is just how many secrets do you think they can really keep from the enemy at this time of surveillance, of all the technology, of all the ETs in the midst, right? Who can
Mhm.
be right here, standing right here, and you can't see them. You know,
Mhm.
in other words, it's questionable when both sides use AI and percentages of, of what's going to happen,
Mhm.
probabilities.
Right.
They're
And
both getting the same
looking
answers.
glass. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
well, guys, it's 50-50. Have fun, you
Right.
know.
Could go either way. Yeah. Well, it's important that we keep this dialogue going.
Yes,
And
it is very important. I agree, and I appreciate your time and your great
oh,
questions and
right.
probing and all of that. It's fun. So
Yeah,
thank you everyone for watching, and we'll put this out there, and hopefully people will have a reaction, and we'll continue the dialogue.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Carrie. It's always a great pleasure and enlightening to talk to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.